Fade to District 128 logo.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge, please.
Everyone stands for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone returns to their seats.
Roll call, please.
Jim Batson.
Here.
Kara Benjamin.
Here.
Don Carmichael.
Here.
Cara Drumkey.
Here.
Lisa Hessel.
Here.
Middleish Cotwall. Sonal Kulkarni.
Here. We note 6 of our 7 members present, so we do have a quorum. At this time, I would like to begin public comment and invite, I have 2 people signed in. The first is Dave Westlake.
Christy Zunker approaches the podium.
Okay, great. Yes, and you're aware we have a 3-minute limit?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Zunker. On August 29th, 2024, almost 3 weeks after the start of the school year, my daughter, along with other young women in the girls' locker room, were in the middle of changing for PE class when, without any notice, a grown man with facial hair and men's clothing walked into the locker room and began undressing with them. Many of these girls have known the student only as a boy since middle school. There were feelings of shock, embarrassment, and fear. The girls who were changing in the same section as this student moved to a different locker room. My daughter, who was scared and upset, went directly to the dean. The dean explained to my daughter that this student now identifies as a woman and is permitted to use the girls' locker room. The dean told my daughter that if she is uncomfortable with this, she should find a different locker room to change in. Later that day, I had a conversation with the dean and a social worker who provided me the same information. My daughter must choose to change somewhere else if she is uncomfortable. So now she is being singled out. The following day, I spoke to the special service supervisor and a school social worker. They told me that in order for a student to use a locker room of choice, they must first complete a gender support plan with someone from special services. Once the gender support plan is in place, the student may begin to use the locker room they feel most comfortable using. I was also informed the staff is not permitted to discuss the gender support plan with anyone. The PE teacher is not permitted to tell the biological women in their PE class that someone who is transitioning may use their locker room in the future. Does anyone see anything wrong with this? If you don't, I ask you to please put yourself in the shoes of these young biological women. Many are uncomfortable showing their bodies, even among other biological women. They are still adolescents. They are vulnerable. The girls' locker room is meant to be a safe space where biological women can undress and feel unthreatened, dignified, and safe. I ask all women how you would feel if a person you knew only as a man, who still looks like a man, suddenly and without warning, not knowing that they are in the process of transitioning, came into your personal space, your safe space, and began undressing in front of you. Please also consider this. What if one of the young biological women in that locker room was a victim of sexual assault from a biological man? What kind of trauma would this present? Do her feelings matter? If she is not told in advance, she does not have the opportunity to prepare herself. It is already too late. I'd like to make one more point. When something takes us by surprise, we react. Don't you think the transitioning student felt singled out when the girls started moving away from them in fright or in embarrassment? Aren't the girls who are asked to use a different changing room feeling singled out too? Wouldn't it be better to give advance notice, eliminate the element of surprise, and give everyone the opportunity to plan accordingly? I ask you, please reconsider your policies. I'm not here to judge students who wish to change their gender. I believe we should treat everyone with dignity and kindness. I'm here to protect my daughter. I'm here to protect all young biological women and girls. Please let us not forget about them. Thank you for your time.
Dave Westlake approaches the podium.
I'm Dave Westlake. I'm probably going to echo a lot of what Christy just said. I want to tell you the story from a dad's perspective. My daughter, Zoe, is a senior at Libertyville High School. She's the toughest kid I know. She plays AAA travel hockey. She goes all over North America takes hits from people twice her size, and gets up and keeps going. She plays in the varsity lacrosse team at Libertyville. When she was a kid, she was attacked by a dog and had half her face bitten off and spent 8 hours in emergency plastic surgery to make sure her eyes would not fall out of her skull. She's a tough kid. She's also a very compassionate kid. She's the first one to stand up for people who are being picked on or made fun of. She's the first one to volunteer to be friends with people who are new to a school or feel like they might not fit in. She's the first one to choose the harder right over the easier wrong when given that choice, because that's the way we raised her. She's a good kid. She's a tough kid. She's a compassionate kid. But a couple weeks ago, I picked her up from school and I noticed something was different. The glow, the happiness, the cheerfulness was gone. I didn't know what it was. And as a dad, my first instinct is to protect my child, as any dad would want to do. And she told me about the fact that she was in the girls' locker room, already unclothed, when a student that she's known for the last 6 years as a boy walked in right past her, traumatized her by being that close to her, and started changing for Jim.
Momentary pause.
The thing that bothered her was that she felt like she wasn't given a choice in this scenario. It was just thrust upon her. The thing that bothers me was that my daughter felt like she was violated. My daughter felt like she wasn't safe at school that day, and she hasn't felt safe at school since then. She feels like her rights and her privacy don't mean anything to the school. As a dad and as a member of this community, what disappoints me is that this district has done such a fantastic job of trying to be proactive and think ahead of things that could happen and circumvent problems that could arise for one student, but ignored the rights and the privacy of everybody else. Now, it's a problem that's already happened, right? The damage is already done. That can't be undone. But what can be undone, or what can be prevented, I should say, in the future, is something like this happening to any other girls, or for that matter, any other boys. This board, the school districts here, are creative people, filled with smart people, can look forward and see what potential problems might be on the horizon for a segment of their student body. I demand, I expect that in the future, everybody is considered, all rights are considered, everyone's privacy is held as sacrosanct, because it's that important. If a child is not,
Do you mind wrapping up? It's 3 minutes.
you bet, one more sentence. If a child doesn't feel safe at school, they don't feel safe anywhere. Please do better.
Next, I have on the list Connor Crane.
Connor Crane approaches the podium.
My name's Connor. I'm on the football team. That's what this issue is about that I'm speaking on. First off, before I begin talking, I'd like to say I agree completely with every need for equality for all the programs throughout the school, and I believe in it just as much as everyone. But when it comes to specific things being taken away in which we've worked for and we've been graced with the opportunity to have, for example, today, recently the team has been planning to go to Chicago in correlation with the Caleb Cares Foundation. And we had a full donation from them. They were paying for every single cent of it. LHS was not going to pay for anything. And we were going to be able to go down to the game as a team, all 60 of us, people who were available to, and watch it with our school not having to pay anything, it being fully donated to us by Caleb Cares. Now today, we were informed by our athletic director under 8.80, this was not in compliance, which with certain issues like this, I understand, you want these opportunities to be presented to everyone. But when you have these donations and such, like, for example, throughout the summer, I know recently there have been problems specifically regarding the donations that we received through our sponsors and such, in which money being divvied up equally between all programs. When it comes to donations, such as every football team member walking door to door and doing their own work throughout the summer to raise these donations and collect all of this money from these people who are willing to support our program, in which we are doing all the work to fundraise. And that is how we absorb most of our money for the season, is through each player knocking door to door to door, sending it out to their family and spending countless hours throughout the summer to receive these donations for our program to better ourselves and give us better opportunities, I feel it's just very unjust for these actions and such to be taken away from us, to be divvied up when we earn it in the first place. And I understand we want to have equality for every program, but when it affects other programs who are putting in just as much, if not more work, in which they're earning it themselves and then getting these opportunities in which they receive, like with our connection through Caleb Cares, and we receive an opportunity to go do something like this in which the school does not have to pay a cent and that donation is given to us, for it to be taken away from us just because we want it to be equal, when, yeah, the opportunity is not being given to every single student at the high school and such. But when it comes to this, what the work we've put in and the opportunity we've gotten, because we've gone to these Caleb Cares events, we've supported them. We 2 months ago in the summer, we went to an event, I believe it was down in South Chicago for Caleb Cares, and we were there for about 4 hours throughout the day supporting his program and such. And then we're graced with this opportunity just for it to be taken away. I feel like it's very unjust. That's all I have to say.
Would anyone else like to address the board?
Dale Sharman approaches the podium.
Good evening. My name is Dale Sherman. I'm a Libertyville parent. What's happening in the locker rooms, you have to know in your heart of hearts, is wrong. Having a biological man change with biological women is wrong. There should be a zero chance of that happening. And we create here a non-zero chance of people being exposed when they're most vulnerable. And I've heard many times in response, well, it's the law. Our hands are tied. It's the law. It's not, right? And the law does not prescribe how you have to comply. The law is full and equal enjoyment of the facilities based on how one identifies. But full and equal enjoyment doesn't mean contemporaneous use. There's a lot that could be done if we think creatively and think differently without great expense. Staggered times, walling off sections, different locations, a gender neutral changing facility that would be of equal accommodation as what we have for the men and women now. It's wrong, and falling back on it's the law, it just won't work anymore. Maybe you're getting bad advice, right? It wouldn't be the first time you got bad advice and followed it. You can think back to a lot of different things as recently as APA, going back to COVID, a lot of bad advice was followed. So I encourage all of you to think differently and think about what might be next too. We live in Illinois, so this analogy might seem ridiculous, but in a year, it might be the law. Why can't someone identify as 14 if they're 18? I want full and equal enjoyment of all classes available here. I know I'm a senior, but my life experience and my feelings suggest that I'm 14, not 18, and I want you to recognize and honor my lived experience and my feelings. So I want to take freshman classes. I'm a senior, but I want to be on freshman teams because I identify as being 14. And you might say, well, that's ridiculous. That's not the law. And you know, there's a document, a state document that would demonstrably prove the falsity of the assertion that you're 14. It's called your birth certificate. That kind of demonstrably proves the falsity of the assertion that's going on right now. But identifying as such under the law gives you access, but it doesn't prescribe how that access has to be done. Now, clearly, if the law changed and how you identified would define your age and the classes you could take, the school would do something about it. If the law changed and suggested that your life experience and how you feel defined your grades, I'm a C student, but I identify as an A student, and I want my graduation to be with honors. And I'd like to be the valedictorian because that's how I identify. The school would do something about that, right? They would honor the letter of the law, but they would find a way to comply with the right accommodations that treated everyone with fairness and good results. The same thing could be done here. It's a bad law. You can say it's the law, but how you comply with it is up to you. And I suggest we've not been creative enough. We've not done enough to protect the women, and we must.
anyone else like to address the board this evening?
John Hetzel approaches podium.
John Hetzel. First of all, I wanted to point out that prior to 2020, there was no 3-minute limit that you imposed on public speaking. You can go back and look at the videos. Jim Batson was on the board at the time, Lisa Hessel, you were, and you allowed 5 to 10-minute public comment sometimes. You're doing it to restrict people's freedom of speech. Secondly, I also find it ironic that in January, I think it was this year, you changed the public comment section to follow the recognition awards. It used to come before it, and you changed it afterward, again, because you don't want the community to hear what the parents and other communities have to say. So I'd like to move on to the next thing. This weekend, I was able to review more of the recent FOIA docs received. It seems our district policy on DEI equity under Ms. Hessel's leadership is continuing to bite us all in the glutes. And a chunk from the taxpayers' money and teachers' ability to teach and students' ability to learn, because these FOIA docs continue to expose the DEI and equity initiatives as being racist and discriminatory in practice, as we're learning from these FOIA docs. Specifically, Ms. Hessel, your leadership, or lack thereof, much has been mishandled based on all these claims and issues this past 18 to 24 months. Just reference the Herman, Ellis, Bowen, Sanchez, and these FOIAs, and it's a painful place to be where you have now put us. Ms. Hessel and Mr. Kelly need to go for mishandling much of the info in those FOIA docs, including the Title IX. The reality of you, Ms. Hessel, and your supporters, Carmichael, Benjamin, and Batson, as a quorum managing this district recklessly and unprofessionally with your quorum, continues to cost taxpayers money unnecessarily and distracts the teachers and the students from teaching and learning academics in favor of overwhelming them with DEI and equity. As I stated almost exactly 2 years ago in this same meeting, in this very same time, stop the nonsense on DEI. Everyone knows what's going on, but for some reason you feel they don't, because you four in particular live in a North Shore bubble most of your life. Honestly, it's pathetic what has been allowed to happen with you in charge, Ms. Hessel. And I'll tell you right now, the locker room incident's a perfect example of your woke ideology going wrong. Today, businesses and corporations, colleges, universities are banning DEI like hotcakes because in practice it's discriminatory and racist, and these FOIA docs show that. Costing this district taxpayers a fortune, wasting our resources better served on academics. It's a charade, Ms. Hessel, with support from your 3 loyalists. How about just practicing practical common sense organizational management based on competency and merit, and all the equity will fall into place naturally. Be prudent, not promotional. Look how great we are because we do X, Y, Z. Substance matters versus waving a flag exposing the district to your misunderstanding of reality. The 18-year-old locker room issue this past couple of weeks is just another lightning rod supporting the systematic problem this district leadership has created with woke, equity-based policy. That situation violates women's rights at an incredible level.
That's 3 minutes. Please wrap
Taking
it
it
up.
backwards exponentially because of your woke DEI policy. And by the way, you are the leader, because there's your picture right on the front cover, front and center of the strategy.
Would anyone else like to address the board this evening?
Pause for the public.
Okay, then we will move on to our teacher union report. I'd like to invite a representative from the union.
Paul Carnstead approaches the podium.
Hi there. My name is Paul Carnstedt, LHS science teacher, science Olympiad coach, ninth grade lab coordinator, and secretary for the D128 Federation of Teachers.
And baritone sax player.
That would be my brother, actually.
That would be.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
He has glasses, I don't.
He looks like you though.
I had to wear contacts because people kept calling me Matt. Anyway, so today I wanted to provide you with a report on some of our multi-tiered systems of support, also known as MTSS measures, and how they're playing out in our schools. I want to clarify that while I have quite a bit of insight into one specific system of the MTSS plan, the 9th grade lab at LHS, in my position as a lab coordinator, I'm reporting on things I'm hearing from the members and representing our union. The district's MTSS plan has come along quite a bit since the spring. It is very early in the year, and there have been a lot of changes to some courses, including grading policy, sequence of content, differences in enrollment in those classes. So speaking as someone with a scientific background, it's hard to make an evaluation this early in the year with only a small sample size of grades and so many variables that have changed. However, I have some anecdotal observations that come from our teachers, and we'll focus on the systems that most impact our teachers, and that'd be the extension lab, the ninth grade lab, and PAWS numeracy and literacy. So first, the extension lab, our teachers generally feel has been a solid resource for our students. As a reminder, I'll describe this intervention. So this is before school tutoring. It allows students in grades 10, 11, and 12, plus ninth graders in honors or AP classes, more on that later, to meet with certified teachers in English, science, math, and recently added, according to the documents tonight, social studies. This intervention is considered tier 2, meaning that this tutoring is in addition to the support that these students are already getting from their day-to-day classroom teachers. Right now at each campus, 2 math, English, and science teachers work with assigned students from 7:50 to 8:35. I'm one of them. And we're working with administration to rectify a violation of the memo of understanding that applies to teachers taking on this work. But when signed by our union, when signed by our union school board in June, the Extension Lab MOU did not include ninth graders or social studies, but we have been meeting to discuss how to rectify those violations while serving those 2 areas of need. Second, the ninth grade lab is another tier 2 intervention scheduled during the day. This is targeted towards students in our college prep, freshman lit and comp, biology, and algebra 1. Just because freshman is in the lit and comp, I want to clarify those are both freshmen. All 3 are freshman classes. This intervention is staffed by new educational support personnel positions created this year, with some teachers, myself being one, acting in a role to schedule students or to facilitate communication between tutors and course teams. As the gradebooks have started to fill up, our teachers are identifying students who would benefit from extra help. These freshman course teams share a common planning period this year, which gives them the ability to share their ideas for quality instruction that is the foundation of our tier 1 interventions. And they could also discuss which students would benefit from being connected with the ninth grade lab ESP tutors. Third is PAWS. So we have a lot of positive feedback from our teachers involved in our freshman PAWS program. As a reminder, this intervention is delivered by content area teachers, and it is designed to target students with skills deficiencies in math or English. We call these interventions PAWS numeracy and PAWS literacy, respectively. Students were placed in these interventions via the STAR test. As for how this program is rolling out in the buildings, there's a little hiccup that occurred when the administration of the STAR test was delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. The domino effect also caused a delay in finalizing the rosters for PAWS numeracy and literacy until about 2 weeks ago. But there was a good silver lining here, because in the meantime, our PAWS numeracy and literacy teachers used the first several weeks of school to get to know all of the students assigned to their PAWS class period and work with them on whatever math or English they needed in their classes. The second surprise occurred when our PAWS numeracy and literacy teachers got their finalized rosters and noticed some STAR test results seemed a little bit off. Despite some delays and inconsistencies in the STAR data, one outcome is very clear. The PAWS numeracy and literacy teachers have been able to use their experience and expertise to identify skills that students have deficits in and work with them on improving those skills while also assisting them in course content. Teachers report there is a proactive rather than reactive vibe in helping our students through PAWS numeracy and literacy programs. The plan moving forward is that our building administration and PAWS teams continue to work together on how to best use the STAR test and the PAWS program to help students with skill deficits make adjustments when necessary. I do need to say there are a few gaps in MTSS coverage. There are some periods where Tier 1 help is not available in the Masher ARC. There are some students that, due to their schedule, either a 0-hour class or enrollment at Tech campus, cannot be connected with the Extension Lab. There's still some lack of clarity as some teachers are only now starting to connect students to these interventions. We're only 6-7 weeks in. However, everybody is working together to find the best solutions for our students. Speaking about the entire MTSS implementation, with several teachers and counselors on the various committees, along with administration, we've been given a seat at the table to discuss how things are going and what improvements need to be made. As we plan out the specific systems, our administration has trusted our professional judgment and our accounts of how things are going on our end when it comes to decision making. It has been noticeable and it has been appreciated. In the administration's MTSS presentation you'll see tonight, they do say they will collaborate with us when it comes to decision making in the future. At this moment in time, We have no reason to believe that won't happen. However, I would be neglectful in my union role if I did not point out that this hopeful feeling reminds us of where we were in fall 2023 when teachers were asked to collaborate on an MTSS plan. At that time, you had been told directly that teachers would help determine these systems. And then we were here this spring telling you how we were not included in the conversation, or how we were included in the conversation until suddenly we were not. When we questioned admin's unilateral decisions in light of teacher jobs being cut, it was implied in a board meeting that we were overstepping the purview of our union. We do not want to end up there. I do not feel anyone in this room wants to end up there, but we do need to learn from the past to avoid reopening some wounds that we're all collectively working together to heal. We hope to continue to be trusted as we give our recommendations about what is and what isn't working. Continue to trust us that we can delve into the financial or logistical complexities when it comes to staffing this support. Continue to trust that we are looking out for the best outcome for our students. I want to end on a personal observation. Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Tom Colentis, has often said in our MTSS meetings, as well as here in school board meetings, that our greatest tier 1 interventions for students are strong instructional practices. He is right. Thank you, Tom. Keep saying that too. Appreciate it. I want to expand on that as well. Due to my own personal and teaching schedule being a bit different this year than any other point in my LHS career, I've had a lot more time between 7:45 and 8:45 when school starts, due to tasks I'm doing before school, et cetera, where I'm around the building. And I want to reiterate how many of our staff help students before school. It's noticeable. I've worked at 4 different school buildings before this. 3, sorry, misspoke. This is my 4th. Staff is helping students before school. I want to reiterate how often I see teachers helping students during their lunch periods. These are all extra supports that fall into the tier 1 category that I feel do not get acknowledged enough. If you look at our district's tier 1 interventions, I would argue the most common intervention our teachers use is to devote their before school time, prep periods, lunch periods, and after school time to their students. They could be grading papers, lesson planning, eating lunch, but instead they put off those tasks for the evenings because they put helping students first. This is a cultural norm here at our schools. Our MTSS system depends on our awesome staff to provide these interventions because we are dedicated to helping our kids and making sure they succeed. If you're watching out there, I want to say thank you to all my fellow union members for what you do. You're awesome. And I wanted to let you know, while I have the microphone, how our collective MTSS journey highlights the work that you do. Thank you.
And at this time, I'd like to invite our ESP union representative to the mic.
Lena Sciulagi approaches the podium.
Good evening. We are back to report on behalf of the ESP Union. I am Lena Squatchy, the ESP Union co-president, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. On behalf of our executive board, I would like to express our continued appreciation to the district for their collaboration and partnership as we navigate these waters together. A special shout out to Dan Stanley and Brian Kelly for all of their support and us launching our contract throughout the school year. We are making strides forward in ensuring our members are respected, their contributions to our district are acknowledged, and we continue to make things right by our ESP. However, there is still work to be done. We are thankful that our committees have started meeting. Our labor management, the job descriptions committee, the job evaluations committee, IT committees, and our professional development committee has also met with administration to help plan our October 11th Institute Day. Secondly, thank you to Don for his support at the BPAC meeting last week. I know Denise and the small group of parents were extremely grateful that you took time out of your evening to speak with them, especially those that haven't traditionally participated or attended board meetings. We would also like to publicly thank the Teachers Union for including us in their annual outing to the orchard. We hope that this is a start of a beautiful tradition to have our unions come together as one and spend quality time together. I would next like to take time to discuss the update that was provided regarding the commitment to of the Racial Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Policy at the September 9th board meeting. One of the goals of Commitment 2 of this policy is recruiting, hiring, and retaining practices that embrace a diverse staffing of all personnel at every level that reflects the global community and staff who carry out this district's commitment to equity and diversity. Educational support professionals are first and foremost a part of this global community who carry out this district's commitment to equity, diversity, and we want to feel included. Inclusion is the practice of creating environments in which any person or group can feel and be welcome, respected, supported, encouraged, and valued. This report documented all the benefits of having a diverse teaching staff while failing to even acknowledge diversity amongst ESPs.
Momentary pause.
While a diverse teaching staff benefits all students, so does a diverse ESP staff. Our students and larger community deserve to see themselves reflected in our admin assistants, who are oftentimes the first to greet students when they walk into our various spaces, our campus safety and paraprofessionals who spend all day interacting with students, and all of our positions that enhance the achievement of the district. A diverse staff at all positions is beneficial to all. The district should focus on the recruitment and retainment of all staff of color. Our board policy 7.12, racial equity, diversity, and inclusion states that District 128 daring mission calls each of us to recognize the dignity and unlimited potential of all members of the school community. And further down that policy, the district believes in recognizing, celebrating, and affirming the diversity, intersectionality of identities, cultures, and perspectives of district students, families, and staff. And student success is broadly shared through active partnerships between district staff, families, community members, and students who reflect a broad spectrum of identities, experiences, and backgrounds. Our collective bargaining agreement language that has been adopted works to support this board policy. Article 7, Section J addresses our bilingual stipend that employees who are assigned by administration to interpret and translate shall have their base rate of pay increased by $2. It was the intent of the union to support the work of our bilingual ESP in Spanish and Russian by not only celebrating their language and skills, by not only celebrating their language skills, performing these tests, but also to maintain them. We need more staff of color, more bilingual staff to support our students, their families, and each other as staff in this district. But we also need to keep our staff. Recruitment and retainment go hand in hand. Staffing of all positions should reflect the student body. As ESPs, our employees deserve to be in a workplace environment that allows our group to be and feel welcome, respected, supported, encouraged, and valued. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to review the agenda. Under communication, we will next hear from our student school board representatives. We will review FOIA requests and have a donation acknowledgement this evening. Then we will share some additional good news. We will then move on to our consent vote agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routinely approved by the board with a single motion. These are minutes, destruction of closed session recordings, ed tour requests, employment matters, disposal of obsolete capital equipment, bills payable, and financial reports. These items have gone through board committee review and recommendation, and documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. Do we have any items that board members wish to remove from the consent agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, after we approve the consent agenda, we will move on to items for action. Coming out of P&P, we have board policies for review. We have an intergovernmental agreement, a MOA for course offerings and optimum class size. We have some educational tour requests that came after our committee meeting, as well as some employment of employees. And we will approve the 2025 Vernon Hills High School graduation contract. Following that, we have one item for discussion that is a first reading of board policies. And then we have some items for information. We will have a superintendent's report by interim superintendent Dr. Lechner. We will have a presentation on MTSS and academic supports. We will review the fiscal year 24 employee compensation report. Then we will share if we have any board comments and events. Do we have an IASB report this evening? We have a brief report from our IASB delegate. And do we have anything from CEDAW? Nothing from CEDAW tonight. Okay. Then we will review future agenda items. We will retire to executive session to discuss employment of employees under Illinois School Code 5 ILCS 120/2C1. This will be for the purpose of reviewing and selecting a search firm for our superintendent search based on the two finalists that we heard presentations from in our committee meeting 2 weeks ago. We do intend to take action following that closed session to authorize our interim superintendents to finalize a contract with the search firm that we select. After that time, we will adjourn. So now it is my pleasure to turn over the mic to our student school board reps for their reports.
Sire Abraham.
Good evening. As homecoming week approaches, excitement in students is building for the many upcoming events. Ever since the HOCO theme of Disney, the happiest homecoming on earth, was announced, students have been anticipating their plans for the events, including window painting, the Powder Puff game, and the homecoming assembly and court, and more. To start, this coming weekend, sports teams and clubs will begin window painting on the downtown Libertyville windows of the restaurants, boutiques, and other businesses to show their spirit. With each club and sport assigned a specific window, everyone can show their spirit through vibrant paintings that connect to the homecoming theme and their respective activity. In general, students seem to be looking forward to this activity because it allows them to express homecoming spirit by channeling their creativity. Lena Davidowski, captain of the girls' varsity tennis team at LHS, says, "Window painting is always a fun team bonding exercise, but it is also a great way to show our spirit to the entire Libertyville community rather than just the school." Additionally, seniors are showing their spirit by preparing for Powder Puff, the girls' flag football game coached by LHS boys. Senior Johnny Sellers, a coach for one of the many Powder Puff teams, says he's enjoyed coaching because it lets him bring a fun atmosphere to the beginning of homecoming week. He adds, both the players and the coaches are excited about Powder Puff because since our freshman year, we've watched the seniors participate in the tradition. So I know I'm speaking for all of us when I say we're excited that it is our turn. Most of all, though, students are excited for the true homecoming events like the assembly and the dance. Freshman Grace Ryan says that she's excited for homecoming because it will be a fun way to hang out with her friends and make new ones too. At the dance, one of the most well-known homecoming traditions is the homecoming court. The court consists of a select group of students who embody Wildcat values and who were chosen by their peers. Senior Suhani Sharma, a member of this year's homecoming court, says, "I'm excited for all the HOCO court activities and to be a part of such an amazing group. My older brother was also on homecoming court, and getting to see all the fun memories he made during his time doing it makes me even more excited to be a part of it. I hope that all members of court can use this opportunity to show our freshmen how spirited our school really is." All the students at LHS have homecoming activities to look forward to for a variety of reasons, and participation in the activities mentioned helps students and LHS as a whole to maintain a strong spirit and continue fostering a sense of community and togetherness. Thank you.
Victoria Diaz Martins da Costa.
Hello, everyone. This month, I wanted to give insight into one of the most rigorous courses LHS has, those being the AP Science classes. For its AP classes, Libertyville High School offers biology, chemistry, physics 1 and 2, physics C, and environmental science. Most students would consider these courses to be the most difficult ones offered at LHS. The AP Science classes are a period and a half of a school day, which is equivalent to 1 hour and 7 minutes approximately. All of these classes offer labs and experiences to how real-life college classes will be like. Morgan Shore, a current senior, took AP Chemistry during her junior year, and she described the course as very rigorous, with homework every night and 2 to 3 labs due a week. However, she added that she really enjoyed the course, and not only was it fun, but the teacher did a great job explaining all the material and offering support when needed. She also added by saying that even if colleges don't take my score, it will have prepared me for college classes and will make the material a lot easier in college. Additionally, Claire Erdman, another senior at LHS, took AP Physics during her junior year. She commented on her experience by sharing that AP Physics class was very challenging but very informative. I felt like I had a lot of support from my teachers and many opportunities to learn content through hands-on activities. Claire also mentioned that it was helpful learning specific question types because it came helpful into translating into other science classes. All of the AP Science teachers try to offer the most support available to students. For example, Ms. Rooks, the AP Chemistry teacher, occasionally offers workdays for students. During those workdays, students can ask her how many questions they want, whether it's regarding a lab, homework, or even notes. During workdays, she also provides extra practice worksheets on the topic that is being learned in case the student wants extra practice. I myself have used those workdays to ask her to explain into more detail how to correctly answer the lab report questions and to better understand the material we are learning. The AP Physics teacher would also frequently have a few days of review prior to a test. The classes would spend half of their time finishing notes, and the other half, teachers would teach students how to properly make flashcards that would best help them and provide time for the students to ask questions. Overall, students have expressed difficulty in the beginning of the course, but by the end, students are grateful by their experience from that class because they felt it better prepared them for a real college course and they were exposed to more mature and difficult questions and experiments. Students are also encouraged to ask questions in class and come in to talk to a teacher during a free period if there are any questions or even to access the MASH.
Pramacharya.
Good evening, everyone. At LHS, extracurricular activities have been thriving this year, with new and existing clubs drawing in students from all grade levels. Two new standouts are the Badminton Club and the Pickleball Club, which have seen remarkable growth. Eli Q, founder and president of the Badminton Club, said, "We've had an amazing turnout this year. Students are enthusiastic about badminton, and it's awesome this club is such a success." Similarly, the Pickleball Club has been attracting many eager students. On the academic side, we've reached our first progress report of the year, providing students with an early indicator of where they stand and what they need to focus on for the rest of the semester. Students who require academic aid may visit the resource areas provided at LHS. This year, the resource area known as the MASH, Math and Science Help, has shifted its focus to only academics. In the past, the MASH was not only a resource center for students to seek academic help from teachers throughout the day, but it also served as a casual hangout spot during downtime. Whether students needed help with any subject or even just a space, the MASH served as the go-to destination. However, the space has now shifted to focus strictly on being an academic resource center. Students can still visit the MASH whenever they wish to, but it is now completely academic focused. While some students miss using the MASH as a social environment, most students believe that the complete emphasis on academics has made it an improved environment for those seeking academic aid. The availability of teachers throughout the day ensures that students can access the help they need without the disruption of others. There are also still many other spaces around the school where students can hang out and collaborate with each other, such as the drop-in lab or the many LSDs around the school. Finally, it's important to acknowledge the great teachers at LHS who continue to be extremely helpful and supportive to their students through all of their needs. Teachers at LHS are committed to their students' success, making a big difference in how students feel about their ability to perform academically. Overall, LHS's amazing teachers and excellent academic resources have allowed students to thrive academically through the beginning of the school year. I'll turn it over to Vernon Hills.
Eamon Diala.
Good evening, board. It's wonderful to be here again tonight. To kick things off, we recently awarded 7 amazing Vernon Hills senior with the title of National Merit semifinalists. Over 1.3 million juniors and about 21,000 high schools entered the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program by taking the PSAT NMSQT in October 2023. These 7 seniors are Percy McGrath, Madeline Wright, Christina Semyonova, Caleb Gumminger, Lakshmi Nair, Rebecca Portwood, and Laura Kachidova. These 7 will advance to finalists through an application process this fall. Additionally, 20 other seniors were named commended and 24 more earned special recognition. Way to go, everyone. Next, juniors and seniors have had the opportunity these past few weeks to attend college representative sessions hosted by our very own CRC. Between USC, Johns Hopkins, Wisconsin Madison, and more, the CRC has done an amazing job bringing representatives from all over the map. One student even shared that she appreciates getting to know what each college actually wants from their applicants. In addition, the CRC hosted senior and senior parent nights and has been guiding everyone through the college process. On September 4th, the CRC staff even hosted a parent night explaining everything related to the college application process. Their work to support all of us is always appreciated. Next, this past Thursday, we welcomed 20 new inductees into the Vernon Hills chapter of NHS. Exec board members Layla Schumacher, Shritha Chitletka, Brooke Bowers, Micah Getlin, Haley Clegg, and Chelsea Lynn all created a welcoming environment for our new inductees. Congratulations, everyone. Additionally, the fall musical is underway. Sophia Koenig shares that the main character, Eurydice, meets Orpheus. Together, their love is challenged by Hades after he kidnaps Eurydice. The production opens on October 25th. Koenig even shares that the production is so cool, especially because the rights have only recently become available to high school students, so the show is super innovative and cool. Additionally, nearly the entire musical is performed while in song. Sounds like an incredible show our Backlight Theater Company has put together. Finally, in addition to the ARC tutoring sessions soaring, the freshman lab has been booming as well. Personally, I'm in the ARC every single day, both during 5th hour and before school, and I can say from my own experience that we are all, tutors and teachers alike, constantly helping students reach their full potential. It's been so wonderful to see how the ARC and freshman lab have become a part of our school culture and the supportive community we all provide for one another. Thank you.
Griffin Nichols.
Good evening, board. It's great to be back again and to have the opportunity to represent VHHS. To start off, we recently had Yellow Ribbon Week, a week to promote mental health awareness in our community. Ms. Thelen, the prevention and wellness coordinator at our school, spearheaded this event, which included painting rocks, therapy dogs, and various community organizations offering students help. In an interview, she stated that students were very involved and engaged, especially with the rocks and the counseling event. The week was ended with a Everyone Wear Yellow Day, which was a great success with seeing students school-wide all wearing bright yellow. Vernon Hills recently had the Ronald McDonald Nurse Mobile event where community members who didn't have or couldn't afford physicals and immunizations could receive them for free. Nurse Kajal in an interview stated that they were very excited to receive and help. On another note, our ARC peer tutoring program is at a record-breaking high with 200 confirmed peer tutoring sessions this month, not including the freshman lab and student staff tutoring. This is something the ARC has not experienced in its years of being a part of our school. In our opinion, as representatives, this is a clear sign of how important the ARC is and that it should receive further funding and support. In the meanwhile, our clubs are also warming up here at Vernon Hills, with FMPA having its frog dissection today, VIP and BPA starting up, just to name a few first clubs having their meetings this year. And to wrap up my segment, VHHS is entering homecoming week. Our school theme is Olympics, and I'm sure you've seen as you walked into Vernon Hills today, our hallways with decorations all over the walls. Saturday is going to be the school dance. Friday, the homecoming football game. Thursday, the school-wide color competition. Wednesday and Tuesday being fun outfit days, while tonight is extreme flag football, where our other rep, Daniela, Danny, is going to compete. So let's all have our fingers crossed that her team wins. In a quote, she stated that she's really excited to be a part of the white team this year for Powder Puff, and that she hopes her team wins, even though they have only had 3 practices. But they are still very hyped just to play football with each other. And that's it for the reps.
Very nice. You guys are off to an excellent start. Thank you for your reports. Okay, moving on. To item F, FOIA requests. We have several FOIA requests that are listed, as well as the time that was spent answering them. We also have a donation acknowledgement, and we are very grateful for the automobile that was donated to our shop at Vernon Hills High School by Mr. Vince Matthew. Item H, good news. I will turn it over to Dr. Lechner for additional good news.
Great, thank you. And even though the school year is just beginning, we are already getting news of students and their outstanding academic achievements. I'm happy to share the following good news. We had 15 D128 seniors who were named the 2025 National Merit semifinalists. The national pool of semifinalists represents less than 1% of all high school students in the U.S. We have 32 District 128 seniors were recognized as 2025 National Merit Commended Students for their exceptional academic promise, demonstrated by their outstanding performance, as we heard earlier, on the PSAT and the MSQT. We also have 34 District 128 seniors that were named College Board National Recognition Program Award recipients. The National Recognition Program celebrates students of identity as Black, African American, Latino, Hispanic, Indigenous, Native, first-generation college student, or those that attend high school in a rural or small town. These students have met the following criteria: 3.3 or higher GPA, and PSAT scores within the top 10% in each state. Congrats to our students. Next, we have Vernon Hills senior Daniela Gomez-Añez and Libertyville senior Michaela Boone were named this year's DAR Good Citizenship Award recipients. The award, given by the local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, honors senior students at each of our high schools who demonstrate the qualities of a good citizenship, dependability, service to others, leadership, and patriotism. We have one of our young adults at the Transition Pathways was recently offered an internship at the Shell gas station in Libertyville. After demonstrating strong employability skills while utilizing Shell as his vocational training site, he is now there independently twice a week. We have District 128 freshman, Ketan Sharma, who attends Laremont School, was awarded the Student of the Month STARS Award for his exceptional work using the Tobii Eye Gaze augmentative communication device to communicate with peers and staff. STAR students demonstrate exemplary and improved academic and behavioral practices. They show kindness towards others, attend school regularly, and continue to try to even when tasks and situations are often difficult. District 128 and CEDAW proudly celebrate Keaton's self-driven effort to communicate and share his joy in learning. That's all.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to the consent vote agenda, and we are looking for a motion to approve the consent vote agenda as presented.
Carmichael, so moved. Batson, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Kulkarni.
Aye.
The motion passes, and we will move on to items for action. I will turn it over to Don Carmichael to take us through those that came out of P&P.
Don Carmichael.
Okay, so the first item is the board policies for review and monitoring. I don't know that we have to have any further discussion or commentary at this time unless anybody has anything that they've caught that they want to bring up.
Pause for discussion.
And there have been no changes since our committee meeting when we discussed them when they were first presented.
Okay, so moving on to the Lake County School Mutual. Oh, we have to. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, for
Yeah, so that's item A under.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking this was first reading. I apologize. That was for discussion. Okay, so I am looking for a motion to approve the board policies as presented.
Batson, so moved.
Drumkey, second.
Just to be clear, these aren't really policies that have changed. This is a process where we take a section of policy and review it to make sure that it still makes sense, and then reapprove it, so to speak, as a for ongoing use.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No modifications were made to these
Right.
policies.
Right.
Right. Very good. So we've had a motion and a second. Roll call.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Kulkarni.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to the Lake County School Mutual Aid Response Team. This is an intergovernmental agreement.
So this intergovernment agreement is between the schools in Lake County that would, in essence, schools would work together in the event of a crisis. But before the crisis happened, it is also intended to develop, work together, implement programs, training in preparation for disaster. But if there were any situations where we would need to rely on other schools during a crisis situation, that we could work together. And this is very similar. So Lake County Regional Office of Education, Dr. Karner, has put this together. It's modeled off a program in DuPage County. So he's really trying to bring the school districts together to work together. So in the initial fee for this, which would include all the training and development in 24-25 would be $250. And then an annual fee after that, not to exceed $400. The agreement was, one of the things he did for us was he actually ran it by the law firms that the school districts in Lake County did. So.
Don Carmichael.
I was not there for the discussion, but I did read it over. Is there anything that anybody needs to add? Or
I would just say that having been an administrator in a DuPage County district and having seen, the effects of this, thankfully not used often, but just knowing it's there and the cooperation that's there, I think it'll be a great asset for those of us up here in Lake County.
Is it possible? I have no issue with the cost. It seems like a very small fee for this cooperative type of arrangement. But is there any way you could provide even just a single example of the cooperative nature of this arrangement? Like, how would we see that play out in real life? God forbid.
Well, it's still in development, so he's trying to get everyone to buy into this agreement, and then part of it would be the training first. And then if, for example, there is a crisis in a school and they need another school to be able to send the students to for a meetup with parents, that you could rely on using another school district.
Could it be potentially something like liaising school counselors in the event of
Yes.
increased emotional
social
support needed?
workers or
Okay,
counselors? Yeah.
cool. Thank you for illustrating.
Which we are, one of the things we are lucky being to a high school district. If we have a crisis at Libertyville or at Vernon Hills, that we're able to utilize our resources across the district.
Thanks.
can I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental cooperation agreement for mutual assistance in response to crisis in the public schools of Lake County, Illinois, for a fee of $250 for the 24-25 school year?
Drumkey, so moved.
Benjamin, second.
No further discussion. Carol, roll call, please.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Kulkarni.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item C, the memorandum of agreement for course offerings and optimum class sizes.
This memorandum of agreement, in working with our teacher union, that we would like to modify the language that is in our current contract under section N on course offerings and optimum class size. And the memorandum of agreement, what it does is it does help to spell out a timeline for having discussion with our union in regards to sectioning and staffing leading up to our March committee meetings and our board meetings, when the board takes action on our staffing for the following school year. So this just outlines that timeline for administration and union to work cooperatively on that.
Don Carmichael.
Very good. I'd like to thank the teachers union and the administration for hammering this thing out. I'm glad that that got done to everyone's satisfaction. All right. Well, I'm looking for a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement, course offerings of optimum class sizes for the school year 24-25.
Hessel, so moved.
Batson, second.
Discussion? Very good. Carol, roll call, please.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel,
Aye.
Kulkarni,
Aye.
Batson,
Aye.
Benjamin, Carmichael.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. On to the educational tour requests. These are the ones that were added after the PMP meeting 2 weeks ago.
Momentary pause.
Is that correct? Okay. There's 4 of them. Perhaps we should just have a motion and then go to discussion. So can I have a motion to approve the educational tours as presented?
Can I just, we need to amend the recommended action because it's a motion to approve 3 ed tours and there's 4.
Oh,
So if we could just, Hessel, I move to approve the educational tour requests as amended.
Carmichael, second. Okay, any commentary, discussion? Carol, roll call.
Hessel,
Aye.
Kulkarni,
Aye.
Batson,
Aye.
Benjamin, Carmichael,
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to employment of employees. These are additions after PNP. Can I have a motion to approve the employment items as listed?
Batson, so moved.
Kulkarni, second.
Commentary or discussion? Okay, Carol, roll call, please.
Kulkarni,
Aye.
Batson,
Aye.
Benjamin, Carmichael,
Aye.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Then I turn it over. Oh, excuse me. Motion passes. Thank you. Dr. Batson.
Okay, there's one item here. It's the Vernon Hills High School graduation contract. As we all know, we moved this last year. We had our first opportunity to use the Rosemont Theater for our graduation venue. Having been there at that event, I can say it was a very well run, very nice event, and very comfortable for the audience as well as the participants. I thought it went very well. This is to renew that contract for this coming year. Same amount as last year. It's $43,000. And I'll put that out there for a motion in a second.
Hessel, I move to approve the 2025 Vernon Hills High School graduation contract with Rosemont Theater in the amount of $43,000.
Carmichael, second.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, roll call, please.
Batson,
Aye.
Benjamin, Carmichael,
Aye.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel,
Aye.
Kulkarni.
Aye.
Motion passes. I'll turn it back over to President Hessel.
Great. We've got one item for discussion. That's board policies. It's a first reading.
The first reading for these, there are 5 policies, and these were recommended by press, and the updates have to do with the Title IX updates regulations from federal law. So,
Lisa Hessel.
Okay, great. Can we have any discussion or questions about those policies now?
Pause for discussion.
Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to items for information. I will turn it back over to Dr. Lechner for a superintendent's report.
Yes, I have 2 items for us this evening. The first is in your board packet, and this is about a summer school overview and some highlights. Overall, we believe that summer school was a success. District 128 ran 14 in-person courses and 1 fully online class. Students take these classes to fulfill graduation requirements, open up space in their schedules, advance in our curriculum, and to recover credits. 411 individual students were enrolled, and they took 563 classes. This means that some students took more than 1 class. We had 2 new summer school assistant principals this year, Ms. Amy Wiggins from LHS and Dr. Debbie Beagle from VHS. Each served in this role and did an amazing job, and we're really thrilled that they did a great support to students and staff. Summer school driver's education continues to be a very popular course, as well as all students can fulfill their driver's education requirements without having to enroll in private lessons. The data shows that a high percentage of students who enroll in driver's ed are students who receive free waivers during the school year. We also have some notes about our special services and EL programs. Each year, District 128 runs special education courses that are connected to students' IEP goals, and they provide them extended school year services. These courses support a wide range of students from incoming freshmen to transition pathway students. The fastest growing student population in District 128 is our English language learners. These summer school courses are designed to help our newcomers acquire social and academic English skills. Additionally, they learn about broader community and culture. So our work moving forward with respect to summer school, I have two things. The administration team will review summer school attendance policies to better ensure that our practices meet the needs of students. Our goal is to uphold attendance while creating a bit more flexibility in how student absences are coded and responded to. The second thing was that student support personnel such as social workers, school resource officers, and student specialists have not been hired to work in the summer school, or they work very limited ways. As students' needs evolve, perhaps our summer school staffing model needs to be reviewed as well. The administration is reviewing what personnel resources will be needed in place for the next year for supporting students and staff. And that is the overall summary on that item. Any questions, or do I just move forward?
Pause for questions.
Okay, next. And this is involving interim superintendent goals. As co-interim superintendents, Becky and I are excited to share that our ongoing journey and growth and celebration of District 128. We have been impressed and inspired since we got here. It's clear that there's hard work and dedication of the staffs, and we as servant leaders are committed to supporting everyone's efforts as we move forward. In that spirit, we are in the process of developing a one-year SMART goals plan for District 128. These goals are informed by the insights that we gathered during our one-to-one interviews when we first joined the district in July. While these goals are similar to traditional superintendent goals, we're designated them as district SMART goals in light of our interim roles. It's important to note that these goals highlight key themes and initiatives that emerged from those one-to-one discussions we had. So this is not part of the District 128 strategic plan, but rather a one-year standalone plan. Now, we're going to share those goals in great detail at the October board meeting, but I'm going to give you a little hints about what some of the things are today. We're going to be reviewing and updating administrator contracts, ensuring timely and effective communication. We're going to be reviewing and suggesting some updates to the current District 128 strategic plan. We're going to complete a non-union ESP salary study and establish starting salary rates for those positions. We're going to develop administrative procedures that are aligned with board policies. And we're going to review our survey data, and we're going to reflect on our procedures about how we use surveys and survey data. And lastly, Becky and I will develop a comprehensive transition plan for the new superintendent. So we look forward to continuing our collaborative efforts to foster an environment of excellence for all our staff and students. Thank you for your ongoing support.
And thank you, Dr. Lechner. You and Becky have done an excellent job in your interim role, and we look forward to that one-year support plan and seeing the details that you have for us.
Great.
Okay, moving on to item 6B, I will turn it over to Dr. Colentas for the MTSS and academic support update.
Outstanding. Is there a clicker board that we have for the slides? All right. Well, while our audio visual is being set up, just would like to thank the board for entertaining this information this evening. And this has proven to be quite a timely report because both of our unions and our student board reps mentioned different aspects of our student supports. So we want to continue to share in some of the discussion about that. A small portion of this report will be a little bit of a review on some MTSS terminology. We find that that is, even for people who are working with MTSS every day, something that needs continual review and understanding. And then we will have kind of an update from the administrative standpoint on some of the student academic interventions that are being developed. And so as we go here, there we go.
Pause for slide.
And we can go right to the second slide.
Pause for slide.
Great. So what we will do tonight is, as I said, kind of a brief overview of the MTSS systems that are evolving at our school. We want to fill you in on a quick summary of a lot of the summer work that occurred, and then talk to you a little bit about some of the new structures that are in place for our team meetings this year. And then our principals will finish out with talking about the student academic supports and providing sort of a big picture overview of how those are operating. We can go to our next slide.
Pause for slide.
So this is just a very brief reminder of what MTSS is in District 128. And it is challenging to understand MTSS because there really aren't national models. And as Dr. Herman will discuss, there are several challenges with instituting MTSS at the high school level that really leads to high schools across the country and even our area instituting MTSS differently. So rather than think about MTSS as sort of a one-size-fits-all program that we implement, we need to think of it more as a framework and guidelines that we use to build our system upon. So think of it in some ways like freshman transition. All high schools operate freshman transition models. And while these are largely based on the same goals and the same principles, each school's program is unique to reflect its students and its context. MTSS is largely the same. There are nationally established goals and objectives and frameworks for MTSS, but at the high school level specifically, each school really needs to build its own system to meet the unique needs of the students that it is serving and the resources and the talent that it has among its educators and its community. So like freshman transition, there are companies that are willing to sell you canned MTSS programs to implement. And this would allow us to move quickly and check a box and say, hey, we've purchased and we've implemented MTSS, but we don't believe that that is advisable for our system because the danger would be that this would not fulfill the needs that we have to meet the specific needs of our students. And so with our talented and skilled educators and student support staff that we have in District 128, it's best for us to do the hard work of designing our system kind of step by step to meet the unique needs of our students. And while this does take us a little bit longer, we ultimately believe it'll yield a framework that will endure through time. And so just as a quick, the next slide, please, Bo. Just as the briefest of reminders, MTSS, or multi-tiered system of support, is frequently shown as a pyramid of supports. And the key is that all students receive high-quality instruction and services. So on one side of the pyramid, we would put academics, and on the other side, we would put social, emotional, and behavioral. One thing that I want the board to understand about the work we're doing in District 128, frequently when we talk to other high school systems and when we talk to national and regional organizations about MTSS, they are very excited and impressed by the fact that at District 128, our MTSS system is designed from the start to incorporate both student academics and behavioral and social emotional components together. Many systems wind up having those two siloed, and what's happening in the academics is not feeding into the SEL and vice versa. We know that our students are complex human beings and that what affects them social emotionally also affects academically. And so we are intentionally, as you'll see tonight, continuing to design our system with full intention of both SEL, the emotional and social aspects of a student's life, being connected directly to our academic supports. Let's remember that at the bottom of the pyramid is tier 1. Tier 1 is universal practices that are available to all students. They benefit everyone, and they are essential to some of our students. Tier 1 practices occur in our classrooms, the things we do for all teachers or all students. You heard Paul Carnstead talk about teachers meeting with students before school as a Tier 1 practice. It's something that's available to all students. Our counselors, social workers also practice Tier 1 in our social emotional programming. No matter what we do, we will always have students who need extra support, and that is where the second level of the pyramid occurs. That is Tier 2 supports, which are small group. We're still working at that point with small groups of students, and really what we're doing there is targeting some specific needs that students need in order to be successful. And then if a student were to continue to demonstrate need after Tier 1 and Tier 2, we would move to our Tier 3, which is targeted individualized support. So that's where we really start looking at an individual student in our system and creating individual interventions for that child to be successful. Okay, so this model gets utilized in all levels of our school. We want to take a look, national models and frameworks would suggest that at the Tier 1, about 80 to 90% of our students would be successful. So if we look at our grades, we want to see 80 to 90% of our students being successful with just Tier 1 supports. If we were to find a larger percentage of kids not being successful, that might indicate to us as a system that we have to take a look at our curriculum or look at some of the instructional practices that are in place, because we're seeing a lot of students struggle with that. If we see 80 to 90% of our students successful, then we look at who are the 10 to 15% or 10 to 20% who are not. We look at our Tier 2 interventions, how are we serving those students, and then we should leave us with a small group, 3 to 5% of students that require individualized support. So that's how that framework is utilized. And what we are doing right now as a system is helping our staff learn to utilize an MTSS framework in evaluating all of the work with students that we do. So before we dive into some of the academic Tier 1 and Tier 2 work that we're doing, I'm very proud and happy and excited to introduce Dr. Jessica Herman. She is our new District 128 Director of Student Services. She started with us in July, and she has been working alongside me and our entire staff to help us structure our MTSS work. So, Dr. Herman.
Dr. Jessica Herman.
Thank you, Dr. Kulentis. I'm so excited to be here tonight to meet all of you and to be a part of this community. Thank you very much. So when I first started here in July, I knew that MTSS was a big topic of conversation. I was excited to join this work, having worked in several communities in K-12 as a psychologist and as a building and district administrator. And so I was excited to see what I could offer here. And so I've been learning a great deal about our schools and our systems, and I've found two themes have emerged. First, we have some phenomenal structures and programming in place. I've been very impressed with the level of intervention, the level of care, the thoughtfulness that has gone into the variety of supports for our students. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those strengths. And another theme is that, regarding the challenges, we're not alone with the challenges that we're grappling with, especially at the high school level. And as Dr. K pointed out and shared as well, there's not a prescription that we can just apply. And if there were, it wouldn't be right for our community and our students. It does take some time and some coordination. And MTSS by definition is a system, right? Which is a network of interrelated parts. And so we have these parts all in place. And so now our work is to move forward with ensuring alignment and bolstering those pieces as we go.
Pause for slide.
So in kind of a brief assessment of our strengths and opportunities, as I mentioned, there are so many amazing things in place right now. Very strong Tier 1 practices, very strong Tier 3 academic, social, emotional supports. I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of LSTs and see very student-centered, creative problem solving around some complex student issues. We're very fortunate to be very data rich, and data-based decision-making is a really important element of MTSS. And And we have a lot of amazing things in place for database decision making. And then, as we've been hearing throughout this evening as well, we have incredible talent and skill among our educators, as well as passion and curiosity to continue growing and continue improving. And so these are all pieces of a system that are already really well established in our district. Some next steps is, as I mentioned, kind of just enhancing each of these components, and then also enhancing the interconnectedness among them all. And some of these we started over the summer. We want to really keep bolstering our processes and our structures for database decision making, continue building and evaluate our tier 2 supports, which our principals will share a little bit more about, and then continuing to build systemized systems district-wide. Yeah, this one right now too. And we started a lot of this work, or continued a lot of this work over the summer. We had several teams hard at work continuing to build what our teaming process would look like, our teaming structure for this year. We have some new district and building MTSS teams. We've continued to norm our LSTs, our individual problem solving, continuing to build our academic supports and hire staff for those supports. And then continue looking at how we can even enhance our database decision making even more, what tools and processes will be in place, particularly looking at our freshman and college prep courses, as well as our diagonal movers.
Pause for slide.
And then, another core element of MTSS is infrastructure and database decision making. And so this is kind of this graphic represents our layers of teams, 2 of which are new, and the scope of the size of the sphere represents the scope of the work that the team is doing. So our district level team is new. We've had a lot of different teams, but this is kind of a newly formed district level team to look at the whole system overall and create processes and structures to support our continual improvement of our system. And we have building level teams now in both high schools. And those teams are meeting every 2 weeks to look at student data, grades, social emotional data, attendance, specifically looking at the freshman group and our diagonal movers to look at kind of how are we doing as a system and what recommendations might we make. And then our problem solving teams, individual level problem solving teams, or the LSTs, are continuing to meet weekly and discuss students who may need additional support and put those interventions into place. So now I'll turn it over to the principals to share some updates about the academic supports.
Great. As they both have said, that MTS is multifaceted with academic, social, emotional, behavior, and physical wellness as all parts of the system. For today's presentation, Dr. Albin and I will just briefly update some of the academic supports. And I must say that really, Paul Carnstead, if I could just have your speech, I just might read a good chunk of that as we go through. I am not going to repeat all of what he said. I'll start by saying we are in agreement. So I really appreciated his update. It's encouraging to know that our union of teachers and certified staff and ESP staff stand alongside of us in this work. That's good news. I'll start just by talking about some of the supports and then turn it over to Dr. Albin. First, we had a goal to start the year to end last year, of course, to increase staffing in our MASH and ARC as part of our Tier 1 support. So again, MASH and ARC are those drop-in areas where students, in addition to getting Tier 1 support from teachers, and again, as Mr. Carnstead said, so many of those interventions happen in a classroom, before school, during a lunch period, but to have that available to students in our MASH and ARC were extremely important for us, and we did meet that goal. Good news, we do have math and English covered all 8 periods through a combination of teachers, instructional aides, and our tutors. So not necessarily all adult-based, but especially here in Vernon Hills, we have as our As our board reps mentioned, over 200 of those contacts with students. We still are working to get a fully adult covered MASH and ARC, especially here at Vernon Hills. We have fewer of the certified staff members who have open duties for those spots, but we will continue to work towards that while also being able to supplement with our peer tutors. We had the goal of implementing varsity tutors. And while we do have that available to students, I would say maybe the good news is we have not had to use that by and large, primarily because the number of personal interactions right now suffice. In other words, I think our intent was a student comes to the ARC or the MASH and is either waiting for or has less of an opportunity to meet one-on-one with a teacher. We can say, why don't you try this, use this as a support. At this point, we still have enough kind of one-to-one with either adults or peer tutors that we haven't had to fully implement varsity tutors, though it is at our disposal. Moving on to the next.
Pause for slide.
Some of our tier 2 academic supports. And again, we've heard some of this already tonight. First of all, our 9th grade labs, which happened during an assigned half period of a freshman's lunch. So again, this is our freshman Algebra 1, our freshman biology, and our freshman lit and comp. Those happen for a student who has been identified 1 to 2 times per week for multiple weeks with specific entrance and exit criteria, coordinated by the teams of certified staff that are working to set up those criteria. Those are working well. We have a group of ESP and certified staff working to make sure the students identified make their way to the ARC and to the MASH at those times. And you can imagine that it's not always a kid's favorite thing to give up an assigned half-period lunch, but an important thing nonetheless. And then finally, in this area, before I turn it over to Dr. Albin, we wanted to implement that new pause model. Again, Mr. Carnstad spoke to that. Vernon Hill's been running this model for a couple of years, and Libertyville now online with this. But again, a pause program primarily for freshmen, identifying skill deficiencies and using certified content educators to meet those skill deficiencies in numeracy as well as literacy. Then the pause program still continues to offer, as it has for many years, just really high level executive functioning help for the students that need that as well. And I'll pass it to Dr. Albin.
Thank you, Dr. Gilliam. Continuing on with us for Tier 2, one of the things we're most excited about is the goal was establishing our extension labs. This was in the areas of English, math, and science originally, and then recently amended to include social studies. This was also specifically initially talked about through 10th through 12th grade in recognition with our union, realizing that this would be also a wonderful resource for 9th grade students, particularly 9th graders in honors and or AP classes. Once again, in conjunction with our union, we're working to extend this to be able to now offer that to all of our students. So this is proving to be a very valuable Tier 2 resource. These are students that have been already working with their teachers in classes who have been identified for additional assistance. So they need that extra scoop of content work with a skilled professional, and they're coming in the morning, getting assigned to this intervention and working with our teachers. And thus far, it's been extremely successful. Thus, why we wanted to even increase it as we went.
Momentary pause.
Going along with this, this is just a sort of a sample. Mr. Carnstad talked about this, the connection of establishing a system and how our teachers connect with this system. This is something that both of the assistant principals in the buildings have been really working with to establish recognition of all the new parts that we've added to the system and how to connect our teachers and our students with the resources we have available. So this is an example of a launch page, a one-page sort of one-page stop and shop for all of our teachers to be able to say, all right, I have a student, they are in need, where do I go? Who do I connect with? And then how do I connect to those resources These include not just the description of what the resource is, but the online sign up, where the resource is, and how to get our student into it. So we're growing in our understanding, as Dr. Herman was saying, of our MTSS resources, as well as the interaction of those resources at a system, and growing and therefore being able to connect our students with the best resources in a timely fashion so they can get the help when they need it.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, Dr. Albin, that what's really great about that, our assistant principals really started to create that, and then they worked with Paul and our staff in those centers, as well as our department chairs, to fine tune those. So one of the things that we're really working hard to do is make the intervention process as seamless and as smooth and efficient as we can, and creating our own in-house forms that teachers just need to click a link and assign students, and that notifies the interventionists and the department chairs, and it creates a very smooth and efficient system. And the kind of highlighting what Paul talked about, we're working sort of hand in hand on that. The users in the interventions are giving feedback to the administrators, who are again kind of fine tuning some of the system work. So it's been a big focus of ours in these first 5 weeks of kind of establishing these models, is before we've had a lot of students needing intensive academic support, getting all of the referral systems in place and the communication processes ironed out.
Ray Albin.
Thank you. Yes. And then lastly, just as an update, since the spring, we've added considerable amount of resources. This board has allowed us to add considerable amount of resources. By way of update, we have been working very hard to hire those resources at both buildings since the times they were assigned. And thus far, with the exception of one part-time position at LHS and one part-time position at Vernon Hills, all of our resource positions now have been filled. And additionally, we've been able to convert that part-time resource position into additional tutoring for Extension Lab, so that we are able to now use those resources once again for all of our students. So this is showing that we're meeting our Extension Lab, our 9th grade labs, our MASH build out, as well as then our PAWS and PAWS numeracy, PAWS literacy. So this is just really showing that these positions as created have been filled, sometimes have been filled once and then filled again as people have come and gone in different spots. As the start of the school year, there's a lot of shuffling as people find their home, but we have found a lot of people's homes in District 128 at both Libertyville and Vernon Hills, and we're excited to have them.
And then so moving forward, the last slide, Bo, is really over this, now that the models have been built and students are starting to be assigned, over this next semester, both Jessica and I will work closely with our staff at the building level to gather data to determine, is this working? What are we seeing in terms of student success? Are the interventions operating in a way that we believe are supporting and helping students ultimately be successful in their classes? Or are we identifying shortcomings in that? And will a different model or kind of adjustments to this model be necessary for the future? We have plans to work directly with our teacher staff and our ESPs in conversations about that. And we've already kind of created some models for data collection so that we'll have good data to look at throughout this semester. And then we anticipate being able to come back to the board in the winter towards the end of semester 1 to let you know what we're seeing and what we're finding and how that's shaping some of the recommendations we're going to make for next year.
Lisa Hessel.
Great, thank you. What I'm hearing is that this is a robust, complex system, and that the system-wide approach that we started with now also includes a high level of collaboration between everybody that's involved in that system. So I very much appreciate that. I think it was something that we were working towards, and it sounds like we've made a lot of progress, and we look forward to continuing to monitor that progress. So thank you for all of your efforts. I'd like to turn it over to board members who might have some questions.
Kara Benjamin.
I have a couple, but first, thank you, admin. Thank you, everyone down at this end of the table. Thank you, Ray and Becky, for working through with our admin on this. I asked for an update at committee and I got an update. So thank you. It was thorough. I really appreciate the info. I appreciate the info that came from the admin team, but I also appreciate the info that came from Mr. Carnstead by way of kind of anecdotal notes that are, those sentiments seem to be shared by the union as representative of our union. It's really a credit to the commitment of our teachers, our ESP, and the admin that this all appears to be working as designed, which I think personally, I'm breathing a sigh of relief to hear that. It sounds like things are going well. And while sure, our diagonal movers have these supports available to them and are key beneficiaries of our MTSS, this presentation really shows me that this system serves all of our students in some way or form. And I'm really so pleased to hear that by and large, things are going so smoothly. I do have a question or two regarding a little bit of buzz I'm just hearing from some constituent groups. Let me just pull up my questions. Here they are. So I know we had some concerns back in the spring and even a little bit over the summer. This is something we had discussed. This idea of what happens if we have some of our students who are diagonally moving, and at a certain point in this first part of the semester, they're like, no, this isn't working for me. They've spoken to their counselor, they've met with their teachers, their parents, whomever, and it's been decided that perhaps this was a bit of a stretch and they'd like to take a step back and kind of level down. I'm curious kind of what those numbers are, if they are happening at all, and in which departments we're seeing those numbers. And again, I don't know if you have this data collected yet. It sounds like data is not necessarily available for all the things that we wonder about because it is still early. And are there any students that are seemingly stuck, whereas they don't have anywhere to go because sectioning or section seats were such that there just was no space? And if so, is there anything we can do to pivot, perhaps at the semester, to accommodate those students? And just, what disciplines, I guess, are affected?
Okay, so those are some great questions. So for sure, we predicted that we would be in a situation this year where we have some students who find themselves misplaced, right? And we said for sure that we would do our very best to support them along the way and get them to a place of success, whatever that means for that student and or that family. But there are some of those students who are finding that they were misleveled. And for sure, we are in the process right now of correcting some of those issues. So I can tell you right now, Dr. Young has an amazing spreadsheet. I don't know, we don't necessarily have those numbers to give you. I can tell you right now, we have 45 individual student experiences, student courses, maybe all 45 different kids, maybe some of them have one or two of the same situation that have leveled down. So that is happening for sure. And while we want to make sure that kids are experiencing some academic struggle and willing to roll their sleeves up and get after it, we also recognize that either A, some kids are misplaced and they need to move, or B, maybe they have 3 classes that they feel like they're struggling in. And so we say, okay, let's move this one, and you work hard on this, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, teachers continue to work their tails off at kind of that tier 1 level to meet with kids to say, okay, this is where I think you're at. This is what you need to do to improve. Either A, come meet with me, or B, let me assign you to the extension lab and or the freshman lab. So those things are for sure happening. I think there's a reality that we have to acknowledge, and that is A, that we promised you and the community that we would have space available and courses with space available for those kids in those high diagonal courses that needed to level down. And that is fact. We have that space available. And that's why you're seeing, as I was just speaking to at our place, some 50 kids that are leveling down. So that the space is there. I think maybe what you're hearing when you talk to some people is that it's not always just an easy switch, right? Like we don't always have with a 5th hour geometry honors class, a 5th hour geometry class that has open seats where a kid can just bounce to if in fact they run into that, like, oh, I'm in the wrong spot. There are spaces available in geometry classes, but maybe it's in 3rd period. And now that student is faced with the decision of, am I going to drop autos 1 and take geometry 3rd period, or am I going to gut out honors geometry, or those kinds of priority issues? And I know that that's frustrating for some kids and for some families to say, well, I thought you could level down. And our answer is, well, you can. It's just not always going to be the bang, bang, there it is. That's just not feasible to do in the system that we live, in the way that master schedule is built. So I feel like that's 2 of your questions. Was there another one?
Just, are we seeing it more in certain core areas than others?
For sure. I mean, I think at our place, we're seeing it in math right now as much as anything. And again, I would have sat at this table and predicted that same thing. You know, our freshman lit and comp honors, for example, they're still working through their first unit and their first essay. And there's still maybe more of those kinds of levels down before that October 10th deadline of it. You can change a course. So that's the case at our place. I won't speak for Ray, but
Yeah, no, I think at LHS, that's a topic we've been asking right away from day one. Number one, are we very, very clear, both for all over our student services, our teachers, our students, on what a level process up or down is? And we've done a very good job of making sure across Vernon Hills and Libertyville that our processes are normed to that end, and that everyone is clear on how to access that if they need to. Secondly, we have been looking at specifically some of our courses that had the most diagonal movement. I know at LHS, I don't have the like our total numbers, but geometry honors was a high level diagonal movement course. So far to date, we've had 6 students level down from geometry honors into geometry at LHS. We have more than enough seats available still beyond this to accept those numbers. And we're still looking at that. As John said, we're roughly now about 5.5 weeks into the first semester. We anticipate by progress 2, which will come at 8.5 weeks in, roughly 8.5 to 9 weeks in. If we're going to see movement, it'll happen between this time frame. So we're really looking at it now to make sure, where are we? Are we accessing the resources needed? And if we need to move, how do we do it? Yeah.
You mentioned second semester. So can a student say, all right, I'm in this class, I'm going to stick this class out, but at semester time, I'm going to make it. And for sure, students can work with counselors to make changes to a second semester schedule and course outlay at this point.
And at this point, there's nothing we seem to need to do systemically to address that.
Right.
It sounds
I mean,
good.
I think,
yeah.
I think as a system, we have what we need. It's in place, and some of the changes are easy and some of them have some cost, and there's a scale to balance and way.
Sure. And I really appreciate you kind of calling into conversation this idea that sometimes you have to make tough decisions and you can't just slide things over and they click into place just like that. And certainly as adults, this is something we do all the time, right? You prioritize and something has to give at the expense of another sometimes. And it's a shame when that happens, but sure, like you said, that our system isn't built to necessarily withstand fluid changes like that. So certainly that makes sense.
It's also tricky too, because what you heard Victoria talk about earlier was she started, or other students report starting AP Science and feeling overwhelmed, and this is really hard. But with time, they acquire the skills they need where it doesn't become easy, but it becomes manageable. And so what our counselors and our teachers are doing is, every child's an individual, and there are some that are clearly misplaced and maybe in crisis in certain ways where they're going to be leveling down. But there's others where we may, as a system, be saying, wait, let's wait for a little bit. We think, you can do this. We don't have enough evidence that this is the wrong placement for you. We want you to utilize some of the supports that are in place that maybe you haven't been able to access yet. And let's see with a little bit more time if we can get you kind of over the curve. That can be challenging because when a student feels lost or when they feel their grade is going down, it can create a lot of crisis. But our teachers and our counselors are really skilled at working with students and kind of coming to a place of, this is a student that we think with a little more time can potentially be successful. This is a student who, for a number of reasons, we have to level down immediately. And what the district is doing is checking in constantly with our building administration, who are checking in constantly with their department chairs and teachers and counselors. So we are seeing that movement, but I would say we're not seeing it in such a way that it's overwhelming us to manage. It's in some ways commensurate with what we would feel in a regular school year, a little more intense maybe in some of the math areas.
Thank you very much.
Sonal Kulkarni.
Hi, thank you for the update. I think you've got a really good start. As you look for getting us more information, I'd be interested in different perspectives. So teachers, students, I'd like to see what are teachers feeling in a heterogeneous class where they've got a mix of students, which is maybe different than what used to be before. So I'd like to see how they are perceiving their class and from their perspective, handing off or not handing off, but recommending students to different tier services. How is that going for them? So I think that's something I'd like to know more about. And, students, you guys too, from your peers, ones that are going to these classes, what's their experience? Do they find it's helpful to them? I think I'd be just looking for different a fully rounded perspective of how things are going.
Do you
But
guys want to
it
speak?
sounds like you're all off to a great start.
I mean, she wasn't asking you to report now, but if you have
Not
something you
right
want to
now.
say, it
If
would
you
be
have
great to
something,
hear from
great,
you.
but next time.
Vittoria Diaz Martins da Costa.
I've just heard a lot of students say that at the beginning it's kind of difficult, and I even heard today just someone saying that they might want to drop down for math and that they're having difficulty. But I've also been myself, and I was talking to students, just encouraging them to use the MASH. And I myself struggled in Algebra 2 honors. I just it was too hard for me. And that's one of the class that I felt was very heterogeneous. I felt like there were some people that were very advanced and then others that just weren't as much. And I had to drop down, but there were other students in that class that I know were struggling, but over time they caught on. So I think it's just also just a mix of experience how the teachers are handling it and if the students themselves feel supported within each other.
Griffin Nichols.
Thank you.
I have seen a few times of it happening. For instance, today, someone in my AP Psych class handed in papers to drop the class. To me, it was very sad to see because it was a peer who I knew could handle the class. However, I just think that some students, as said in the presentation, need a slight push to go above and beyond. Otherwise, I should recommend that more and more peers should use the ARC or MASH, as I did struggle a small bit with math, but after I used the resources I had available to me, I'm succeeding in the class. So I believe students should just use their resources more often and frequently.
Eamon Diala.
I just also want to add, I'm a very strong proponent of our ARC. I spend so much time there that I know we help a lot of people. I will also say that what Dr. G was saying earlier about if you have a student that's struggling in 3 classes, let's maybe tone down 1 or 2 so that you can handle those 1 or 2 bigger challenges with more attention. And I think it's up to each student to understand where they want to place their focus versus where they need to understand if I divide my focus into 3 areas, I won't be able to do any 3 good. But if I divide my focus into 2 areas, I'll do them both well.
Lisa Hessel.
Thank you very much. And it sounds like a reinforcement of, it's a multi-tiered approach. And students work with their teachers and with the LSTs and with their parents to collaborate on what's best for that individual student. And I think the fact that we're able to sort of meet each student where they are is really commendable. And I feel really good about that. So
And that the system is intentionally designed to do that.
correct. Thank you for that point. What other questions do we have?
Not really a question, just a thank you. This was a monumental task, and I know what you guys did over the summer to create this. The launching page for the teachers, to me, it finally came together as somebody who was sitting on the outside, and to hear Mr. Carnstead, I knew that. I think he actually had one of my children. Sorry, I apologize. Kara.
We got the last name and the first name straight by the end of the meeting. We got it.
Just to hear the collaboration really is heartwarming. And Prem, to hear other students recognize that the MASH is being used for its intention to be the most effective, and maybe it's not social. It seems like everybody is buying into this system. One of the things that I would be interested in hearing is kind of a lessons learned. Now, we're living it right now. It's not perfect. You've said that, but what would what I know you guys are having those conversations now with teachers and amongst yourselves and DLT. What kind of changes do you think we need to make to the system to make it better? Because we're here to support you, and you don't know what you need to change until you're living it, right?
Dr. Tom Kulentes.
Yeah, absolutely. The intention is, while things are set up and in good shape right now, we will be watching and monitoring so that we can't, because we have heard very clearly from the board that you want to support our efforts in supporting our students. So as we identify where the system is not being successful or ways that we need to extend it, we know that we can bring you that information to talk with you about and how we can partner together to meet some of those needs as well.
Great, excellent. Any other questions or comments?
A brief one. I would also like to thank the teachers and administrators who worked all summer. I know some of those teachers. I talked to them this summer. It was a tremendous amount of work without a lot of knowledge about what it was going to look like or how it was going to work out, and just the heart that everybody put into it. I gratefully acknowledge that. And then as a teacher, former teacher, we relied on MTSS all the time where you were putting a student into maybe a guided study or something. I'm interested in looking at that two-way communication, because to me, that was always the biggest barrier, where I would send information out to the staff that was helping my student. Is there a way to monitor how easy that is? Because it was difficult. Like, you would actually have to go down and sit down and talk to them and say, how is this going with this particular student on these set of skills? And so if there's a way to streamline that two-way communication, and we're kind of juggling right now, getting all the pieces together, but if we could be mindful of that, that's all.
I think Jessica, Paul, our APs are working, and Amy Elliott at Vernon Hills are all working exactly on that, streamlining that communication, because that is an important piece of the puzzle.
Kara Benjamin.
May I ask one more question? It might be a favor. And maybe I'm trying to navigate on the website right now. Where can I find everything? I found it in the spring or summer at some point. Everything was kind of laid out, in a very abbreviated manner. Is there somewhere on the district website that we have kind of an ongoing update, or at least like an outline of how to access systems? Or might that be, yeah.
Looking down to Mary.
On the school sites, I'm currently on the Libertyville site. On the main page, on the navigation, there is a tab for academic supports, and it's the same on the Vernon Hills page.
On the main page. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I don't think it's exactly what you're talking about, though. So that's a good request, though.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely a start. and certainly this, I think, would be the place to put it, but just kind of maybe an FAQ or just kind of a graphic. I know we have some of those words have a little post drama woven into them from the spring for some of us, but just something to allow community to get the quick read. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman, Dr. Albin, Dr. Gilliam, Dr. Colentus. We are clearly in good hands with your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to item C for information, I will turn it over to Dan Stanley to present the fiscal year 24 employee compensation report.
Yeah, this is a report that's required to be presented at a board meeting. And so that's the information. It's the same information that was at the committee meeting a few weeks ago. You don't have to vote on this, but this is has to be presented at a board meeting. It'll be posted on our website. Has to be by October 1st. This is prior year data.
Great, and we didn't have any questions that carried over from committee. Are there any questions now? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to item D, board comments and events. I do want to start with encouraging everybody that's available to attend the Ed Red Kickoff Luncheon that is on, dun, dun, dun. It is Friday, October 18th from 11 to 12 at Saranello's in Wheeling, where we will have a chance to hear a keynote speaker as well as from legislators. I know Carol has offered to register anybody that is interested and available, so please let her know if you have not already, if you would like to attend. Any other board comments and events that we'd like to share at this time?
I thought I was going to be able to attend the calendar committee tomorrow, but Don is going to go in my place because I have a meeting that I have to be at. So I've already forwarded him the agenda and he'll be.
Which I requested
And I very much
access to, so we're all good.
The access. We do, the substitute board member has to bring donuts for the.
Is that what it is? And how many donuts?
That sounds fair. Thank you for covering that and for your continued attendance at that and your willingness, Don, to fill in. You are you chose a very worthy substitute. Any other board comments or events?
I have
Just had a
one.
couple-
Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, I didn't know you weren't done. I attended last week an event, webinar sponsored by ISB. It was on artificial intelligence and education. It's actually very, very interesting and got a lot out of it. I always say that from the standpoint that there are some interesting things that ISB will produce, such as that. And it was an easy hour long. I sat and ate lunch and watched the webinar and pulled some things out of that. And just as an FYI, I'm continuing my affiliation with a couple professional organizations. So I'm also now on a national committee for student data privacy. So I'll be continuing that work through COSA. It's a national ed tech organization. We had our first meeting of the year last week. So I'll be continuing that work. So
Don Carmichael.
I did get to go to the BPAC committee meeting. It is the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. So they're at the stage where groups of parents are really poised to take over the committee. Right now it's kind of being driven by Denise Fuentes and a group of teachers who have committed time to this committee. It's funded through federal funding, so they actually they could have events, they can host families to get together anyway. So they asked for a board member to come to talk about what the board does. I might have enticed somebody to run. So that would be nice because there were a lot of questions about how do you file petitions. And so it was nice just to have a dialogue. But one of the things that came up in committee was, can we watch the meetings in other languages? And it's not easy, but it's completely doable. So I will just tell you that you have to, instead of watching the meeting on our platform, in the bottom corner, there's a YouTube button. If you click on the YouTube button, it launches YouTube. Then you can go to settings. Inside the settings, you can identify any of 100 different languages. So it's and it just translates on the bottom. So the closed captioning is in whatever language you want that language to be. I did it today. I looked at it in several different languages, and I was pleased and amazed. So it is available. So, all right, that's it.
And thank you. My only update is I intended to be at that meeting, but mixed up my dates. So I will come next time.
I gave a great excuse. You shouldn't have said that. Now they know.
Lisa Hessel.
Okay. The IASB report.
Just a brief couple things coming up on
Jim Batson.
October 9th. Coming up quick is the Lakes Division fall meeting. This is actually being held at District 70 at Highland, so it's in our neighborhood, it's in our district. Thanks to Rebecca Jenkins, who is the superintendent there and now sits on the executive committee with a number of us from around the county. So she offered to support that. This one's a little different than prior ones. It's not really a dinner. It's more like a meet and greet. They're calling it a legislative carousel. And what IASB has done is for the fall meeting this year, they requested all divisions across the state to use this format to be able to get greater engagement with the legislators in our area. So we're hoping this, is a good event, and we'll do our best to keep it engaged. And so I encourage you to all attend that if you can on the 9th.
Jim, IASB sent out a survey actually to everybody asking for what some topics.
Yeah,
Do you
they're
know-
looking for topics. Yeah.
Do you know if they got some good response?
I have not heard what the response is
Okay.
yet on that. I should be hearing that fairly soon, but I know that just went out last week, I think. So yeah, we're keeping in the loop on that in the conversation, and then also just a reminder to, if you haven't planned and you want to plan to attend the III, the joint conference in November, please do that. And that's all I got for IASB.
Great, thank you. And there was nothing from CEDAL. So we will move on to review the list of future agenda items. Everyone can see what we have coming up for October committee and the regular board meeting. Any other future agenda items that we should discuss now?
To add?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I mentioned this a couple months ago, but I want to bring it back to our agendas, which is this idea of somehow tapering cell phone usage during the school day. Either doing a bell-to-bell no phone or strict, I know the kids are giving me side eye right now. They're like,
So I think what you're looking for is to see if the administration has any
Yes.
recommendations.
yes,
about
absolutely. And exactly, I think whatever it may be. But yeah, that is something I think we ought to prioritize discussing.
Any other future agenda items?
Noticing the smiles on everyone's face.
Lisa Hessel.
I am sure that the building leadership will be collaborating with students before making any recommendations.
Momentary pause.
Okay, anything else before we move on? Then we are looking for a motion to convene in closed session to discuss the employment of employees under Illinois School Code 5 ILCS 120/2C1.
Carmichael, so moved.
Batson second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Benjamin.
Aye.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Drumkey.
Aye.
Hessel.
Aye.
Kulkarni.
Aye.
Batson.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will convene in closed session. When we return, we will intend to vote on giving the interim superintendents authorization to engage one of the two search firms that were finalists that presented at our September committee meeting. Thank you.
Text on the screen says, "The board is in closed session." Fade into board members seated at table.
Great. May we have a motion and second to return to open session?
Carmichael, so moved.
Drumkey second.
Thank you. Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, we would like to ask for a motion to approve and authorize an agreement with BWP and authorize the co-interim superintendents to finalize a contract not to exceed $27,800. Hessel, so moved.
Batson second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Pause for roll call.
Drumkey,
Aye.
Hessel,
Aye.
Kulkarni,
Aye.
Batson,
Aye.
Benjamin,
Thank you.
Carmichael.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now I'd like to ask for a motion and second to adjourn the board meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Hessel, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Fade to black. End of meeting.